Hi there, it's Brendan. How's it going? It's Brendan. I want to try to explain that uh, the research that I did, that I completed, especially the process, gave the ultimate answers. Okay, and when people ask more questions, once you give the ultimate answers, okay, the ones that people really wanted to know, and they suddenly come are saying, "Oh, but we've got questions." It's a scam, okay, which is designed to delude everyone. If it, um, the questions like, does this scare you? Does are you intimidated now? Are you? Those are purely designed to derail anything good, okay? Because if it if it's good, okay, if it's not like are you afraid of completely insane or something like that, questions or something like that. If people really cared, it wouldn't matter. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. That's how twisted it is. Um, and yet the questions are still there, and I just like, whoa, I've given the ultimate answers, and now people have like more questions just to derail that. Okay, because again, no matter how much uh, uh, diversity or such there is. Um, if it doesn't threaten me, it doesn't threaten you or your friends or the whole fucking world. Okay, that's a serious. That's the calculations, which I proved scientifically. Okay, actually was going on for very many complex reasons, and I certainly okay. One of my scientific studies was the diverse couples thing that um, the famous ones, the ones who we actually know about, they just don't survive. That's not good. Okay. Privately, I met this Indian girl. She had quite dark skin. She could have been, what's his name? Rishi Sunak's niece or something like that, very much, I think. Um, in her late 20s. She was American, spoke perfect English. Her dad was coming from California, she said. And I just got along so good with her when I met her in private. There's another Indian girl like that as well, very philosophically educated and well spoken English. Um, um, and I just thought, man, if I lived on a desert island with someone like that, it would be so awesome. Someone who's intelligent and highly educated and interesting and fun. But if it was a public thing, if it was on the internet, it would just be as treacherous as can be. I talk about my trip to uh, to New England and New York City in 1997, and there was a bit of plenty of uneasy situations that I was in, and I was just winging it completely because I didn't really like growing up on the West Coast. Nothing good was happening. No opportunities were automatically um, happening. It seems like the best thing that happened to me was when I was 10 years old, or I was actually 9.5, I guess. I got a new neighbor who was like a little brother, and that was probably the best thing because they literally bought our house and we moved next door, and so we were really good friends. As someone who can afford to buy your house, probably a nice person. As it turned out, okay, or as it would turn out. Okay, I'm telling you that. Um, and not much else ever could happen, unless if it was, nothing was that convenient. Having someone, your neighbor, who you get along with, you know. But that was just a friend, like being similar to a little brother, but not obviously. Um, but even though he had some cousins, and some of them I tried to, there was a potential for a romance or something like that with his girl cousins. Nothing actually materialized, and that would have been if people who bought our house were, instead of two brothers about my brother and I's age, there have been two girls just slightly younger than my brother and I's my age. That and equally sort of desirable. Not like one's fat and one's not, or something like that. But anyways, nothing good ever just automatically happened for me. So horrible, horrible, tragic things did happen to the world. And I quantified this. I did some heavy duty scientific research. I had to do a lot of Wikipedia biography, sort of searching, combing these statistics, looking for these undefined statistics. And I did all this research, okay, and I couldn't have done it if I hadn't gone to Europe, which was treacherous to go by myself. I had sort of the first time I went, I had this sort of emotional breakdown the night before. Uh, the months before this, I went back home to catch the flight, but I had been staying at near a ski resort, and up there, I would frequently drive to the east end of town, and you could see out over the high desert in San Bernardino, and it was just like this visionary sort of stage. Like, I'm either at the summit skiing, or I'm in my private little cottage up there next to the ski resort, um, watching cable TV. So I'm watching lots of interesting stuff, and or I'm parked at the edge of the town about 2 miles east, where it literally just turns into desert and drops off into the like Palm Springs or something like that. So I had this like vision, if you will, because you're up there at the mountains. You're far from the coast and the seedy elements that cling there, and just the hopelessness that exists in a coastal sort of seedy sort of touristy ambivalence area. Grapes of Wrath, very close to where I grew up. Intense sort of agriculture and farm workers and etc. And so, anyways, look, I came up with the ultimate answers, and when people ask more questions, as though they don't automatically care, because if you care, there's just nothing that can go wrong. Um, I would love to, have a corporate office. I'd like to have, a job and a community, a house, to live in a neighborhood, and, live with some people who are really thoughtful and professional, and connected to what really matters, which I've sort of tried to spell out. Um, but where I've been living for the last 5 years at hostels, there's just like the cretins, okay, people who can't and won't speak normally or soberly, and they're like, unemployable types of people. Bag ladies living in the hallway, talking on their phone constantly, or just these economic migrants who are whacked out on drugs and won't stop talking, even though they don't speak English. And it's an English speaking country that I've been for the last 5 years in both England and Ireland. There are definitely English speaking worlds. Um, and you get a horde of very foreign people who are, pathological. I'm sort of you know sensitized to the thought of being around random people, especially if the people who are really qualified won't say a single thing, and the people who are completely unqualified won't shut up. I am in a panic at that point because the people who might care and might be highly qualified, they're simply saying, "Oh, I look just like those creeps, don't I?" And I'm like, "Well, no, I just think the world's just burning. That's all. That's all." So I'm very nervous, and um, I'm sure Pope Leo probably wishes the tour guide at the Colosseum in Rome didn't just die, because one of the last times I talked to my mom, she was about to go on a tour of that. She was just there a month ago, and I was talking to her or sending her texts or something like that one morning, and she said, "Well, we're about to go on a tour of the Coliseum, so you know, I hope that's comedy for you because I would much rather to be in a thoughtful community where you actually say my name and I will protect people. Okay, that's what I love to do, and that's the only reason I'm here. I'm not here to threaten people or to ask them endless questions, unless if it's I don't know. It's mostly on Wikipedia. Okay, biography if it matters, um, and it's the process. So once you know what to look for, big tech and AI can do that, and I can help program that and make sure that people are safe. Okay, without intimidating everyone, because like I said, if the people who are truly qualified and truly concerned won't say a thing, or they, especially if they won't say my name, because like how it's like when we went to the I was going to go to a kibbutz. My parents wanted, they came up out of the blue, so we want you to go there. We go to the consulate in San Francisco, and the lady is just staring at her computer the whole time as though she doesn't even notice we're in the room. It's like, what a creep, you know. She might have been the person who cared, but could not speak, and that just, um, and this was happening about 2 years ago as well. There was some sort of, uh, I would like to help codify the Middle Eastern peace process, okay, to make sure that it is actually peaceful. Um, okay. Um, if you want an example, compare anywhere in the United States with Central America. Okay, which would you rather have? There you go. Okay, let's say the west coast of Central America, because um, virtually the entire west, the Latin American west coast is just a different world from someplace like New York, um, Florida, everything in that uh, area. Um, anyways, yeah, I just want to be in a happy home because that's what actually makes people in the world safe. And when I give the ultimate answers and then I see a never ending stream of questions, I think, oh, this is not the people who I think I'm talking to. This is a scam, because um, tragedies, radical things happen because there's an excuse. Okay, I I just don't really like to respond to those questions because it's like Jimi Hendrix, he or Martin Luther King, he gets the Nobel Peace Prize, but he has no peaceful outlet. He's stuck in America and the Pacific, which is go to Los Angeles, the Watts riots, and what's next? Vietnam, painted black. Okay, and just paint the whole world, mud. This is grunge. Actually, like Kurt Cobain, he goes back to the West Coast and just hanging out with the worst of the worst. Okay, instead of having a happy, safe, happy home. That's all I really wish that I had, because I know I can do my compositions there and they can be very meaningful. And I put a lot of effort into it. And I like the company of thoughtful people. Um, and to, to focus in on some books, and also just having fun, dinner time. If it's not threatening, I want to be there, but I don't want to answer a bunch of questions. I'm tired, and I'm these hostels where I'm living, and I just don't know anything else. I have no education other than literally what I'm doing. So um, maybe I could stay somewhere else, but I'm petrified. Either being, you know, uh, if I just had like several laptops and a vehicle where I could have all my sort of and all it was about was where I was going to park it. This is like the fantasy. This is actually, the Apple car. The Apple car would actually solve healthcare's number one problem in giving you your own health space. Okay, uh, think about it. If you had to go to the hospital, right, and let's say you had to stay there for a while, and who knows who the hell was going to be else in there, or you could have your own mobile hospital room, okay, and go to a pleasant park and be specifically by the people who you get along good with, the ones who you stay sober with or stay healthy with, or something like that, whatever it is. You would love to have your own, the whole world to have their own setups, and if you had something like that, a virtual spaceship, um, you know, there would be two main concern sectors. One would be illegal activities, drugs or homelessness, and the other would be um, youth, children, teenagers, um, unsupervised, I could simply say. So that would be it, but it would be easy enough to quantify that, to structure the world so that you would make the absolute dream come true rather than fearing the nightmare. Make the dream happen. That's actually could happen. And I can help design that. And if I'm with people who I get along with, um, if that were Bill Gates, okay, Warren Buffett or so. Warren Buffett's much older right now, but um, even if I had to hang out with complete narcissists, as long as they actually responded, I don't mind. Okay, I would like to work with people who have a vision though, and speak well, and do lots of reading, because I don't really like to have conversations. I like to read and write, and if you can sort of quantify everything like that, you can speak very little and very meaningfully. Okay, so you can actually sort of say just a handful of words and speak volumes if it's actually written down there, and you sort of look at all these texts and you study this stuff, and you have a peaceful situation, and including the global uh, geopolitical equations that um, I don't know. I guess the Near East, which would include Israel and every country in that immediate vicinity, um, is sort of like New York and Canada, um, those very prosperous parts of the world, versus the west coast of Latin America. You can just compare the two, and you know you could. Uh, there was an incident in Orlando, Florida. Where it was a nightclub shooting at a gay nightclub, And I had been in Florida about a year and a half before that, and my dorm mate was from Latin America, was doing drugs constantly, and I was trying to not to do them, but he, every morning he'd be lighting one up in the dorm, so I was kind of like stuck there. And he told me that he was a security guard at a nightclub. That he did that kind of work, and I think he's quite a feeble guy, so he wasn't a a very small guy. Um, I don't know what he meant. I it's kind of it was kind of ambiguous, but that's nevertheless what I was told, and what I saw and experienced, and I just you know, I there was also at the same place there was an Indian guy who loved to do Bollywood music, and I would see him out in the back. He was sort of the backyard security guy, and the backyard was this like Garden of Eden. It was this big, like at least an acre and a half, big, just sprawling uh, park-like setting. Just trees and mowed lawns and a swimming pool and a big lake in the back, and big pond in the back, 10-acre pond, um, and he was quite pleasant. Okay, because he never talked on his phone, and he didn't do drugs. I don't think he ate meat. I saw him drink once, and he had plenty that night, but the rest of the time he just never drank. He was a quite pleasant Indian fellow, similar to this woman I was saying I met about a year and a half ago. I met her, and I just thought like, wow, she was just so magical. We got along so good, and she was cute. And yet, as soon as we left the dorm and were around some of the average people at the hostel, the normal, you just get this sense of sheer depression being around a lot of these personality disorders. Um, and in private, totally different. And the internet is never private. So if people actually care and they're truly, they have a vision, I'd like to meet those people directly and help ensure their vision for whatever it's worth. Okay. I really, really would like to be there to help reassure everyone.